Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dualta, and in this podcast series, I will be interviewing investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world, and we will be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. Today's episode is an old interview that myself and Hishem Azzouz from Huxo Media did. So whenever I was looking to start this podcast, I jumped on his podcast for practice, and he was able to tell me, look, why don't you try use the Anchor app, and this is how I do it. And so anyway, went on, had a good chat with Hishem, and at the time I think he was doing it out of his bedroom, and he was a recruiter somewhere. But since that, he's now a full-time recruitment marketeer. And the podcast is now part of the Huxo brand. So this week I'm going to head into London, and we're going to do another podcast. And I'm not sure what we're going to discuss. Probably a lot of the people that we've interviewed on our podcast over the last 6 months. So hopefully we can add a bit of value, and you guys can take some of the lessons that we learned. And yeah, so here, this interview is Hishem asking me about my own kind of recruitment story and all the rest, and probably goes into a bit of detail of when I worked in Australia and Canada and how we set up our business from Guatemala before moving back to Europe. All right, so anyway, thought it might be interesting for you. And we will let you know later on in the week once we get the part 2 finished in London. All right, take care. Have a wonderful Christmas.
The Recruitment Roller Coaster Podcast. My name is Hishem Azzouz, and this is a show where I bring to life the true failures, the true learnings, and the true successes of recruiters and recruitment business owners. Today, I'm joined by Dualta, who has been in recruitment for over 7 years, and for the last 3 years, he has been running his very own rec-to-rec business with his wife. It all started with just the both of them in a service department based in Central America. After cashing in their first few invoices, they then moved to the UK and grew their team. They now help 360 agency recruiters move internationally, including locations such as the USA, Asia, Australia, Dubai, New Zealand, and Ireland. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
How are you doing? I'm great.
I'm really good. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time. As you know, Dualta, I've put a sort of short snippet together about your career so far, and I love your story. I know you recently did a blog post for me as well recently, and I was just fascinated about sort of how you started, and something I was super curious about. So hopefully I'll pronounce this right, Dualta, but how did you end up starting your business in Guatemala, yeah? How the hell did that happen? And that must have been difficult.
It was a random series of events. Myself and my wife and business partner, Charlotte, we were in Australia for a few years in recruitment. I was with Robert Walters, and she was internally with a couple of major corporations. And we had a great time, and all of a sudden the market started turning. The iron ore price changed.
Yeah.
And we just decided, maybe we should go to North America and give that a try. So
I love that.
We had a bit of we decided we would travel for 6 months, but we're busy people. So we decided to set up a resume writing business. And
okay. So CV writing, yeah?
CV writing,
nice,
and that's
nice.
So Charlotte's talent, really.
Really? So that can be based anywhere, can't it? So I guess why that would make sense and work.
Yeah, and that there taught us like a lot of skills of how to set up a business and how to brand it, how to market it, how to do a website. So we did that, and we had a great time traveling around Asia, and we went home for Christmas.
Amazing.
And we were sitting around and thinking, where do we go next? We still had 4 months to go before Charlotte's visa came through for Canada, because you get a working holiday visa to go there initially. And we ended up doing what's called the Gringo Trail in Central America, and our favorite place was Antigua, Guatemala.
Okay.
So we lived there. We had a good time, and then after a couple of months, we decided, okay, now it's time. Let's go get the heads on, get jobs in Canada, and do that. So we went to Canada and to Calgary, and we thought, oh, we're gonna have, you know, a real easy time like we did in Australia, but the oil price decided to really shit the bed. Wow. And that put both our jobs in danger. So we had a tough 10 months in Calgary. I was trying to manage an IT recruitment team, and Charlotte was trying to find the right internal gig. She ended up working internally for NES Global Talent, and they decided to get rid of a third of their workforce. So as soon as she was almost hired, she was made redundant.
Oh no!
So it was a really tough time, and I remember we were sitting around it was March or April, and it was snowing outside, and I was just like, job's not going well. It's snowing. Like, what are we going to do? And Charlotte said, well, when were we most happy? And then
good question to ask. What a great question to ask. I love that. Sorry, but go on. That was a great question.
And we both kind of said, look, we were most happy when we were working for ourselves and living in Guatemala.
Love that.
So we cancelled a few meetings, one with the mortgage broker, one with the visa immigration specialist, and one with somebody who was trying to sell us a house there. We packed our bags and
you went there. Amazing.
We left for Guatemala.
I love that.
Luckily, we had a corporation set up already, from the resume writing business, so that carried us through. So yeah, we set up from Guatemala, and that was it. We got a service department.
Amazing. I think that, honestly, I love that story, and I know I've already highlighted it, but I think when you ask those types of questions, it's so powerful, because you'll find the answer, but you have to ask the question. And I absolutely love that story. So something that I was very curious to ask, Dualta, because some people's worst nightmare would be to work with their wife.
Yeah.
So how have you found that? It seems that obviously you guys, I don't know, how do you find that balance of relationship and work? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. So I suppose it's a really good question.
I'm sure it's an ongoing thing, but I'll be curious.
It is. So she's good at everything I'm not.
Nice. So you recognise that?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be hard. I'm pretty useless at the stuff she's good at. So, like, she's highly organized. She is really good at administration, and you know, and I'm kind of more of an agency recruiter. You know, I'm good at that. I'm good at the sales. I can do the strategy. But I kind of need somebody like her in the background to knit some of the stuff together, or else I'll just end up chasing the next deal and not taking care of the infrastructure, really. But I think we've always had a plan that Charlotte would eventually probably go on to do her own thing. And she's retrained as a yoga teacher. We've had a child, and she's expecting our second child in July. And we've itemized her skill set and then hired 2 people to fill her role.
That.
We had a computer says no moment, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. So apologies. So as you were saying, you've now got 2 people to replace your wife. in the position that she does?
Yeah, she comes in once a week and tells us all what we're doing wrong. But for the most part, yeah, I've got two assistants that handle a lot of the back end sourcing and scheduling of interviews, and just supporting me in everything that we do, really.
Sure. So I think, sort of to sum that up and what you just said, I think it's about both of you just being sort of recognizing what your strengths and weaknesses are, and not sort of being the person who's trying to think that you're the best at everything. Basically, don't let that get in the way, and work out sort of how you can best collaborate, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it. And with the aim that she was always going to do something else in the future. So
cool. So look, Dualta, so correct me if I'm wrong. So the sort of, you're in the rec to rec business now, yeah? That's your business.
Yeah, we've been doing that for 3 years. We essentially just moved UK and Irish recruiters abroad and home again, Australian recruiters abroad. Basically, anywhere where there's a UK-owned recruitment business that's setting up a foreign entity, we're doing business.
So something I wanted to ask you exactly around that. So thank you for sharing that. So because for me, I only have clients and I work with businesses in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So how difficult do you find the servicing these clients who aren't based in the same country as you? I don't know, how do you deal with that?
Well, I suppose because all our clients they're not that dissimilar. A lot of them have headquarters in the UK.
Okay.
And I've been an agency recruiter in Australia, so I firstly got to know that market really well, and I've a lot of friends who are now senior managers or own their own companies, and that was quite an easy in. Another thing of what we would have done is, like, because I worked for Robert Walters, Michael Page are quite similar. Yeah. We ended up working with both of them, especially Page, around the world at the very start, and that there kind of was a nice, easy intro into different marketplaces. And as our business grew, our clientele definitely changed to the high growth, medium sized businesses.
Okay, no, it's interesting. I think the best way to sort of really understand your clients, etc., is to experience it yourself. So the fact that you can sort of lean on sort of what you experienced and all that must help you when you're speaking to recruiters who are looking to make the move over there. Yeah,
I mean, working for Walters for 3 years and doing that within IT, really did give me a good view on how a busy, aggressive room works, and like how a really successful room works. And when I was in Canada, like it just didn't work out for me.
Sure.
I joined a boutique and I took on a project that was too big and the market didn't work. So, and I probably went in thinking I was invincible because I had such a good time in Australia. And I think both those experiences have kind of shaped the direction of our business and how we deal with people and how we advise them moving forward.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So look, if I'm a recruiter based in the UK and I'm looking to go, I'm super interested in having a lifestyle in Australia or other countries. What are the challenges that I face in getting into that market then, Dualta? How does that work?
So each country has its own unique challenges.
Sure.
I suppose if we were to quickly blast through a few of them, Australia used to be easy. You could easily, like, it was so simple just to get the working holiday visa. Anybody could sponsor. They were even giving you a living away from home allowance on top of your salary when I first went. It was just amazing. Now you need at least 3 years experience and a relevant degree. And the billings that they're asking for in UK numbers are unrealistic. So they've changed the laws. The immigration laws have changed. So the companies there are trying to figure out a way around it. But as of the last 4 months, our business has switched from Australia to America almost fully.
It's a complete shift. Because one of the first episodes I didn't hear, Dualta, you may listen to it. I spoke to an Australian-based rec to rec,
and he told me exact same what you just said. But what I didn't realise was that the majority of, well, from his experience, the majority of the recruiter market in Australia was made up of people from the UK. So that must be super difficult then. And if obviously, these changes mean that what you just said there. So that's a big problem.
It's definitely a problem for them over there, but they just have to find a way to entice their own graduates in and improve the image of the industry over there. It's
Sure.
When I was there, it was very much it was an expat job, and there was a few managers in the business that were Australians, but everybody was from the UK or Ireland.
Sure.
But yeah.
So you've now pivoted to USA. So how does that work with the USA market then?
Well, the US is really flying. I mean, fees are high. All the ambitious UK companies right now are setting up there, and a lot of them are following the lead of what S3 did over there in terms of how they've worked and all the rest. And a lot of previous leaders of S3 have gone and set up companies like Faden International and Oliver James and large firms like that, and they're growing rapidly across the States, and there's a great demand for UK recruiters, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. Why is there such a demand for UK recruiters? Surely there must be some in America. But it's an interesting question, and it just comes down to culture and the way the businesses are run, really.
Yeah. So how does it work? Because I'm just curious myself, because I thought America would be difficult as well. So how does it work visa-wise and stuff? Is it the sponsorship piece again, or how does that work?
Yeah, so a UK-owned recruitment company can put you on an E2 visa if you're from the UK, and they can put you on an E3 visa if you're from Australia. If you don't have a degree, it can be tricky, but it's not impossible. If you don't have over 2 years experience, it can be tricky. Your previous experience will probably need to be within the industry that you're working. If you're looking to change desks or disciplines, that can also be tricky. Nobody knows the exact requirements. Every company is kind of trying to do their best to not get flagged and to do it the right way. And we have so many people that try and get through the process, and it's really only the best recruiters that get through it.
Sure. Okay, that's super interesting. So, look, Dualta, what I wanted to ask you, again, sort of referring back to the recent blog post you kindly did for me, one of the things that really stood out for me, which I found super interesting, was that you've intentionally created an inbound strategy for your business. Yeah. So I think two questions around that, because I think obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, the traditional way is blast the phones, email, job boards, all that sort of stuff, and very, very proactive. And I know inbound is also proactive, but obviously, I mean, a lot of people are trying to figure out, how do we get more inbound leads? So how have you gone about creating that, and what prompted that? How have you ended up there, sort of thing?
It's a really good question. Hopefully we have enough time to go through it all.
You don't have to give all your secrets away, but I think just the core, because I think it's super interesting that you've taken that approach, and I think it's a great approach, and I think where a lot more recruiters are going to have to really understand how to create an inbound strategy. So that's why I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I suppose how it came about is, doing cold calling, and that is quite disheartening.
Just a bit.
and like, we can all pretend that we like it and all the rest, but nobody likes being rejected. And if you do, you're a sociopath. Like, it's tough, right? And there is, now, I have done it for years, and there is a thrill when it comes right and you get something you weren't expecting. I suppose we tried to develop a strategy to not have to do that. And I think the first thing you need to do is to be in a market where it's a really candidate short market. So, if you have the candidate, you'll get the job. And that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, we do a lot of destination recruitment. So I suppose a lot of what we do is explaining the process and narrowing down the location that suits the individual and the desk that suits
Sure.
them, and showing our own experiences. And I suppose bringing all that onto LinkedIn and creating a marketing strategy that gets enough views on posts and in turn turns into conversations with the best recruiters. And I suppose the whole other process of, I've got 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. Charlotte's got 30,000. Both our assistants have 5 to 10,000, and we're constantly on. They're all constantly on it. With images, with posts, with direct messaging to people, and then I write a bit of content, and that's it. I suppose.
Nice. No. I think the way I think there's no secret sauce, is there? It really is a mixture of a whole load of things, but I think it's interesting your mindset to that.
I think in simple terms, if you're connected with 50,000 of your target market and you write something, a statement that creates a juxtaposition where people argue or people debate, or maybe it's something that people don't agree with, and that in turn gets 100,000 views, and a lot of that is within your target market. The next thing that you post will come in their feed as well.
Yeah.
And then they'll start to see you. And then I think ultimately what you're trying to do is to create trust. And this is a wanky word, but the word is thought leader.
Yeah.
And not that I mean, there's only
You're not
one
saying that you're a thought leader.
No, definitely not. But creating that trust without pretending to be Greg Savage is what most good rec directs should be trying to do on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's brand, isn't it? It's brand, and I think for me, my view on it, Dualta, is that I think it's got to be a mixture of both. I think that obviously there's a lot of people out there who don't have any inbound strategy at all. So I think that for me, because I know that I do both in terms of cold calling, emailing, and then also I'm always trying to obviously generate and sort of put out there content which I know gives value to the people that I'm looking to connect with. And I think, 100% you marry those up, and it seems like you're doing a lot more of the marketing. You're completely right. And just to your last point there, it's perception is reality. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And when you know your stuff and you know that you're coming from the right place, that's where the trust comes from. And if you're consistent, that's what it's all about. So, I mean, a quick question then, Dualta, because look, you've been in recruitment for a long time. I mean, you're clearly using it now and leveraging today's tools, but how do you see social and social media sort of impacting the industry as a whole over the next sort of 5 years? How do you see that for you?
Do you know, I don't know. I think it's obviously only going to increase, but I think with the GDPR coming in, I'm going to just stop. I'm going to stop a lot of my email campaigns.
Are you? You do a lot of email marketing?
We used to do a bit. I would never say I was great at it,
Yeah.
and it was part of the process that we did. And I think if there's something that we could have really improved, it would have been our email marketing.
Okay.
But now when I look at it, I just think as soon as you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, the next thing I seem to get is a spam email. And if GDPR stops that spam email and we all focus in on creating quality content like you're trying to do here, I think that can only benefit the industry as a whole.
Yeah. So no, I think you're right, and I think people are going to have to really adjust to, as you said, to actually putting out meaningful and the right content. What I wanted to ask you, I'm always curious to ask rec to recs this, Dualta, and I'd love to get your perception of this, especially in the markets that you recruit for. I mean, when someone like me is in the UK and thinks, you know what, I'd absolutely love the opportunity to get into the USA market and all that, what are the sort of key things that they should be looking out for in that USA recruitment business that are sort of good things that they should look for that make it feel like the right move, or positives that they should be looking for?
That's a good question, and I suppose the first thing is in any international move, you want to make sure that you absolutely survive your first year. Yeah. And the first year is tough because you're meeting new people. You could be in a room full of people who are also strangers to each other as well, because it's a relatively new business and it's a lot of expats, and they become your friends. And so choosing the right business, the right team, the right desk, and obviously getting the right package is really important. And picking the right market that suits your skills. So, like, I got to start during the mining boom in Perth, like doing IT, and it was easy. Like, it was simple, because all I had to do is turn up and do the work, because the jobs were more or less there. The database was clean, and I had a manager that took me through everything every day and made sure I didn't step out of line. And so I just stuck at it and made it happen. But then when I went to Canada, it was completely the opposite. I went to a brand that wasn't known for what I was doing. Sure. The market was crashing, and there was no structure in the business. So it's very important finding the right business is the first thing. Yeah.
Sure. So the right environment. I mean, how can you really get? Because I'm just super curious about this, because this must be difficult. I mean, how can you get a real grasp of the right business if you're in the UK? I mean, is this all done through sort of Skype calls and video calls, or do you get the opportunity to go over there? I don't know how. Yeah,
it's a good question. Because we deal with a lot of UK recruitment companies, they'll generally have somebody in the UK to meet you. However,
that's good. That's good.
So usually it'll start with phone calls, and quick phone calls just to suss you out. And then obviously I'll have done my due diligence.
Yeah,
all the rest, and they get through
that's
that.
a real important part of your job, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But the good thing about that we have is if we pick somebody up from a good, well-known UK recruitment company, we can take for granted that they've been interviewed and they've gone through all that process. And if they've survived their 2 years, we know that they're going to be okay at least. And then once we get into the interview process, we can either tell if they're okay or if they're good.
Yeah, sure.
So, and
then that's interesting.
So then second stage would be Skypes, and maybe that might be a third stage as well. And then usually you might get to speak to the team and stuff over there.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
And then final stage is you'll either have to go down to London or Manchester or wherever the client is based, and do a face-to-face in front of the business owner.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's super interesting. So, I wanted to ask you this question, Dualta, because I think more and more people should seriously consider a career in recruitment. Just because I think there's so many skills that you gain and that you learn that you can apply in all areas of your life. So, I mean, how do you think we can get more people to? Because a lot of people say they fall into it, don't they? And I wanted to get into recruitment. So, I mean, how do you think we can get more people to seriously consider a career in recruitment?
I suppose you have to take out the salesy element of it. And because not everybody wants to be under pressure all of the time.
Of course. So,
and that means, it means changing the industry as a whole. Not everybody's designed for it. So I honestly don't know if we need more people to get into the industry.
Okay, that's interesting.
There's more than enough recruiters out there. We just need to get the people who are doing it better at it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I know. To be fair, I think that's a fair point. I just think there's so much value from getting into the industry.
What would you do?
Sorry?
What would you change?
What would I change? I think for me, which is why I've started this, and I think that also why I started my blog, is to actually put out a real narrative and a real perspective. I think that you're not really going to know what recruitment is like until you start. I get that. However, I think that sort of really pulling back from the perception of recruitment is a very easy way of making quick cash, is all about taking your clients out for fancy dinners, is all about going networking events all the time, and we do that, but obviously there's so much hard work that goes into it, as you know. So I think it's just sort of putting out the sort of real narrative out there as to what you can gain from recruitment long term, the skills that you can gain, the money that you can gain, and what you can learn. And yeah, basically. So I think just more of putting out a true narrative is what I think would.
But yeah, I think also on that point of the narrative, you know, lots of people get hired into the industry who shouldn't be hired into the industry.
Yeah, that's part of it as well. Yeah,
and because of that, then they get disgruntled. Their clients do, their candidates do.
Yeah,
it's really tough, and it's one of the reasons we don't do entry-level recruiters.
Really,
because
that's interesting.
If I was to meet somebody on the street, I couldn't tell you if you'd survive in recruitment or not. But if I speak to an experienced recruiter, I can tell if they've got the passion for it and if they really want it and if they're good at it. But I've met so many different personality types.
Yeah, there's not a secret recipe, is there? There really isn't.
There's not, and fair play to anybody who does the grad recruitment, because I just wouldn't have a clue.
That's fair enough. Again, it's coming back knowing your strengths and those sorts of things. So that's interesting. So look, Dualta, the last question that I wanted to ask you, the last question.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to start. I've started asking this sort of to all my guests now. So basically, if you could say one sentence to every recruiter, all right, and it was guaranteed they'd listen and they'd take it on board, what do you think you'd say? What comes to mind?
Don't leave your job in the first year.
Nice, solid advice. Stick it out. Stick
it out.
Yeah.
And I say that because it really takes 18 months to get into the swing of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I see it a lot, you know, where I've people who've had 3 jobs in 3 years, and you know, they try and justify it, but part of being really good at this is the resilience piece. And
100%.
And you really need, like, there's amazing times in it, and it's given me a lot, but it's also been tough, and it's a very challenging thing to do for a living.
So challenging,
because you're dealing with somebody's decision-making processes on both ends of the coin. I mean, a car's not going to decide to not sell itself. So it's really difficult, and having that resilience piece is the most important thing. And it's one of the things that my clients look at more than anything is, did the person survive, like, at least 18 months?
No, I think that's great advice, and I think I honestly, I really, really, really believe that recruitment is a long game, and like a lot of things in life, it's a long game. We're here for the long term, and I think that it's that instant gratification piece that you've got to stick it out longer than 12 months. And yeah, I think that's great advice. So look, Dualta, basically, thank you so much for your thoughts. Before we go, what's going on in your business then, and what are you excited about at the moment then? As you said, you've got a lot of stuff going on in the USA. What's going on in your world?
So, inspired by yourself, I'm going to set up my own podcast.
Nice.
And it's going to be called the Recruiter Abroad Podcast, where I'm going to interview a lot of my contacts and contacts of contacts who are UK recruiters who are going to be based all around the world.
Brilliant.
Just to give you a real insight into what it's like in those marketplaces.
Brilliant. So I think what a great idea, and I think as I said, which is why I think everyone who works in the UK always sometimes have that thought of, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could do this in another country? And I think that's great. So when's that starting, Dualta? When are you kicking that off?
So I've lined up 20 guests.
Have you?
Yeah. So
nice.
And so just want to probably start recording and then see how we go, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. Is there anything else? I think I'm looking forward to hearing about that and listening to those. So what anything else going on, or?
Well, look, I'm always looking to speak to good UK recruiters in banking, finance, engineering who want to go abroad, especially to the USA. Singapore and New Zealand are all really hot right now.
Nice, they're the sweet spots. Okay, cool. Well, look, Dualta, how can how can people connect with you then, buddy? How can people find you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm the Rec Direct with the weird name.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, look, I'll put a link in the show notes. Dualta, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to looking out for your podcast.
Yeah, brilliant.
Nice.
And well done on yours.
Thanks a lot. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.